Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where Executive Coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, senior leaders. It's Alicia Cowan. Welcome to episode number 47 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. It is September. I can't believe it as I'm recording this. It's September, and we are just really in the thick of things here in the Cowan house. So I always like to give a quick personal update and let you know what's happening around my world. So to let you know how back to school went, because last time we recorded, we were just having the first week of back to school. We are now in the thick of it and in the swing of things. So we are all into full weeks of school, getting back into the after school activities. My daughter is now doing both high school cheer and competitive cheer. So we went to our very first high school football game to watch her cheer and really just enjoying watching her be in it in her sport and really having a great time. My son is doing swim. And so swim season kicked off for the fall season. And he is just really impressing us with how much he's grown as a swimmer and his skills. And so really fun watching them. And I think I let you know last time too, we completed the pool. So we finished this big project that we've been working on. I think since March is when we started working on the pool construction. So it's done. And we officially had our first pool party this past weekend. We had relatives in town, and the kids all had some friends over. And so we just had a big group of people that got to enjoy the pool with us. And it was a really good time. So we are in the full swing of all fall activities here in Tampa and really getting ready to start this second half of the year, this school season. So that's what's happening for us. And today what I want to talk about is career conversations. And I think this is really relevant because I think I've been talking to a lot of people about having career conversations as senior leaders with their direct reports and also teaching their direct reports how to have career conversations that are really impactful. And so I want to talk to you about what it means to have a great, impactful career conversation within that lens of being a senior leader, and how you can also coach and teach others how to have this within your organization and how to really make a difference through this. So let's talk about them. So career conversations, they are defined really exactly what they sound like. They're just conversations and discussions that leaders have with a direct or perhaps the mentee or someone within your circle about their career. And really, it's an emphasis on their long-term career aspirations. That's really what is the distinguishing factor about having a long-term career conversation. And really, when they're done well, the career conversation connects someone's past by gaining this really detailed understanding of who they are, what motivates them, and really understanding their whole career life history. And then that connects that with their future. So really what their wildest dreams are, their aspirations for what they have for themselves when they're going to be at their pinnacle of their career. And then it connects that and brings it into the present. And so only really with that detailed understanding of everything of the past behind them, as well as that dream and the distance, is it possible to create the action steps for the path that is right now in the present. Really, why do you want to have them is a great question that you might be asking yourself. And I'll tell you. So what I've seen, and I think a lot of the research shows, is that typically people that we're working with are not inherently great at this skill. And so as a senior leader, you can help guide them. And that may be enough of a reason for you to be able to give back, and why you'd want to do it is to be able to support them through this process. And I'll say, and another couple of tidbits here is that a lot of people that are working with you and working for you might not necessarily always think of themselves in higher levels or higher roles, or even having greater responsibility, just because some people are struggling with imposter syndrome, or maybe just have some self-defeating tendencies. So you can really help people that do aspire to do more and maybe don't necessarily know it yet, or maybe just are not really thinking of themselves in that way. You can help bring that out of them and help support them on that journey if that's something that they want to pursue. Another reason why people aren't necessarily great at the skill is because they deprioritize it. There's so much that happens in our day-to-day and the workplace that sometimes we just don't make this a priority. And sometimes people just go into default mode where they're not necessarily thinking proactively about their future and their career. They're just like defaulting to like the day-to-day and defaulting and maybe giving up the responsibility to someone else to think about their career for them. And a lot of times this falls on supervisors. A lot of times people will default to their boss to think that they know better than themselves about what their career path and career should look like. Again, there's nothing wrong with maybe relying on somebody else's perspective and advice, but not making it your own authentic dream and reality is sometimes a misstep, right? But not really like going into your own true desires and wants in your career and giving that responsibility up to someone else can sometimes not lead us down the path that we would like to. And lastly, a lot of times people are trying to live up to others' expectations. Could be just generally like living up to society's expectations, or it could be living up to parental expectations. And so a lot of times when we're thinking about our career path, we're focused on these, again, false desires and dreams versus what someone truly wants for themselves. And so as a senior leader, you can help guide this person that may not be proactively thinking about their career and help them get out of this default mode and just help them get to a more focused place on their own true wants and dreams. Okay. Number two, the reason why you may want to have career conversations is because people on your team and within your organization definitely are thinking about things like their next step, their career growth, and their development. And they're actively considering all their options within the company and beyond your company. So we know this is a fact, right? That people have a desire for development, they have a desire for growth. And a lot of times when people are looking for that next role, they're looking to potentially move out of the company if they don't believe that the company is going to provide it for them. So in short, two reasons why you may want to consider thinking about career conversations and having them with your teams and teaching this within your organization is you can either get active and participate them, or if you ignore this topic, you may be surprised when people exit the organization because they are not getting this type of support within the company. So as a leader, you have the potential here to really help people by investing in their growth, helping them understand what will make their work rewarding and fun for them, and help them with their growth towards the dream that they may have. So with that, I'd love to dive in and talk about what some of the challenges are and some of the problems that we see with career conversations that are happening today. So one of the big problems that we have is that they simply just aren't happening. A lot of people think that they're having career conversations, but in fact, they're really not. They're more like an imposter career conversation. And a lot of people typically just don't know necessarily what to do. And so that could be a big factor of education, or they might just be too busy and they're getting wrapped up in the day-to-day, so they're not making time for it. So as a senior leader, your job is to help educate what the importance is of this process and how to make time for it, how to carve out this time for it, and why it needs to happen, to help the fact that the company is not necessarily going to just automatically insert this process without some help, some impetus, and some drive from senior leaders backing this, right? So the fact that they aren't happening, you can absolutely influence, okay? So that's problem number one, is simply just they don't exist. Problem number two that we're running into is a lot of times if the career conversations are happening, they're more short-term focused. And so there is time and a place to focus on the short term or like the near term goals for a career plan, but not to start with. So, one example that I think is really prevalent is the idea that a promotion equates to career development. That is very short sighted. And so, while a promotion can be great and it absolutely can represent somebody's incremental personal growth, it can also give somebody new challenges, responsibilities, and new thinking, which is all good. Some promotions are absolutely not that, and they're just more title based without much change to anything else. And the most normal type of promotion is just this recognition for a job well done with a pay and a title increase. Again, all good things. And this can feel good for an associate for about a week or two, but then it typically is back to business as usual. And the promotion, again, while is great to recognize that performance and give somebody a new role and responsibility, typically a promotion does not give clarity on the future and what the future holds and how to get there. And so that's where the career plan and the career development plan can get some clarity on that long-term vision, right? So promotion is definitely more about the here and now and the present role. And the career conversation requires us to really deal explicitly with the future. And nothing about the promotion is typically rooted in compelling us to have this shared understanding of the future. It is more about that present role and trying to achieve the goals of what that present role is held to. Okay, so again, short-term focus. Again, nothing wrong with that, but intertwining development with a promotion, not the right move when we're thinking about long-term growth and long-term career planning. Okay, so that's number two, short-term focus. Number three, another challenge that we have with career development plans is having this check the box type of mentality. Now, I say this because I've worked in HR for many years in my history. And so I've seen it. You do an engagement survey, and typically there's a large request for development. So HR makes a suggestion to roll out some development plans, leadership team agrees, and then sends it out and backs it up to get these development plans out there, puts a due date on them, and then requires everybody to get it done by a certain date, right? Everybody puts pencil to paper, great, drafts these reviews. But meanwhile, sometimes we lack and we skip over explaining the importance of the career development plan, really detailed explanation of how to do them. And then worse than not explaining the why and the how, when they're completed and turned in, no one even really looks at them and manages to them after they're completed. So don't let this be you. Development plans are not a check the box mentality. They're meant to be actively looked at and talked about. And so if it feels like an exercise in just completion and just not looking at them, think again. All right. So the number four mistake that we make with career development plans are at times they can just feel haphazard and random. We plan out a lot of aspects of our lives. However, a lot of times, as I mentioned in number one, sometimes the planning of our career path and the thing that we spend some of our majority of our waking hours on, our careers, are very surprisingly unstructured and haphazard. And again, maybe not you as a senior leader, but I'm talking about the general populace, right? This, I think, is something that is a huge mistake because again, if somebody's a little bit less tenured and they're starting out on their career, sometimes they just do so without this real intentionality. And there's no grounding in logic and, a heavy dose of analytical thinking. They're just sort of going about the motions or doing what they think will make them the most money or give them the most success based on what they've heard and gleaned from their surroundings and society. right? And a lot of times they're not grounded in this like really compelling future for themselves as an individual. And they're not grounded in like the sense of someone's past and their strengths. And really, therefore, it's impossible to land and arrive at any sort of relevant conclusion in place of what somebody needs to do right now, today, in service of these career aspirations. And so that's where you, as a senior leader, can come in. You are great at strategic thinking, you're great at planning. And this is where you can help with that haphazard randomness of career planning. So that's mistake number 4. All right. So now we know a little bit about what the problems that we're seeing out there with career conversations. But now the question begs, like, how do we do career conversations better? To tackle career conversations in a more productive way, we have to understand the past. We have to understand someone's future and their goals in order to help them and understand what to do today in the present. So let's start with step 1 then. We're going to start with the past. How you can support someone with their thinking through their strengths, their past, is to dig in and talk through their professional life story. So you can dive in and you can first understand what are people's motivations, their values, and some of the things that drive them by asking and learning from a person's career trajectory and their life history, right? So you want to ask some questions and ask them to start from the beginning to walk you through various aspects of their academic and their professional life in a timeline fashion. And you can ask and give and glean different pieces of information by paying really close attention and starting to ask and dive deep into some of those major pivots and those transitions. So it could, just starting to sound like open-ended questions like, well, why did you make that transition? And what did that transition teach you about what you like or maybe dislike about your work? And again, if those questions don't sound great to you, it needs to be authentic. So pick and choose really great questions to get really curious about someone's history. And what you're looking for then, once you have that history, is starting to look and pick out themes. What themes do you see throughout their career trajectory? What motivates them? What doesn't? What drives them? And really start to like highlight those themes and then mirror those back to them, share with them what you've heard and see if any of it resonates. If you start to find values and connection with what is lighting them up, then you're onto something. You've got some clues about things that are important to them. And once you have that shared vision, you can then start to think about how this could impact and what they want to go after in terms of the future. So step 2, talk about their future. You want to find out what their dreams are. So step 2 is to dive in and understand where people want to be at the height and the pinnacle of their career. So again, this is not short-term focus. This is long-term career goals. Typically, everyone has a dream, and we just have to help people make it a little bit more tangible. So some people think that people that are less tenured or earlier in the workforce, they may be a little skeptical that they know what they want to be and when and how they want to advance. And other people think that honing in on a single vision too early in your career could be detrimental. But don't use these concerns or like stereotypes as like reasons to avoid this or excuses. There is a way to work through this and deal with this. And again, going back to what we did in step 1, really dive in and ask people, again, based on the values that we found and the motivations that we found in step 1, you can really ask, it sounds like you may want to pursue this, or this is maybe of interest to you. Is that something that resonates with you? And start to dig in and dive in to connect the history with the future and to see if there are themes that are relevant. And then lastly, step 3, once you have that history and you have the future vision, then you can start to plan for the present. And that's where this career development plan and action plan comes into play. So once you have that understanding of the past and future, we can build a very relevant and thoughtful action plan with very clear ownership and very clear timelines. So we've got this path that's behind us. We have a North Star dream that's guiding us in the distance. And now we can start laying the bridge on the ground to connect the two. And so what this could look like is if you have the strengths from the past and this dream of a role within a certain company, within a certain time frame, you can start to say, what are the big skill gaps that exist today? And then you can start to put into place some steps that you can give as guidance to build that skill set. And so it could look like a mentorship, a formal training. It could be an on-the-job experience that you're looking to provide for this person, and really putting some timelines on that. And it makes it real and very tangible. And again, this path may change over time, but in the meantime, there is no harm in building these skill sets as they're working towards their future. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. So we went through at the beginning of this, the problems with career conversations today. We went through a couple of steps that could help you when you're guiding your direct reports and or your organization when they're having career conversations. And remember, if you nothing else, it's quite simple to say 3 conversations are really important. What happened in their past, where they want to be long-term in their future, and then what skills do they need today to help bridge that gap between the two? And again, I love a couple of books on this that are dedicated to career conversations. I think Radical Candor is one that I think is super helpful, and one that helps me think about this process a little bit differently in the way that I'm describing to you today. So could be really helpful. And if you need help with this, I talk through people's career conversations, and not only for themselves, but for others and how they do this. More than happy to help you on this topic or any other topic that you may be struggling with leading your team or being within the workforce as a senior leader. More than happy to help. I am opening up client spots for this fall and would be happy to chat with you about what that could look like. So if you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach out to me through my website. I am at aliciacowancoaching.com. It's ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. And as always, I am so thankful for you to be here and listening. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.